All right, ready. I'm back again with one of my obsessions, which it's really taken off recently, and that would be knives. I probably purchased maybe 10 knives in the last month. I'm addicted to watching like EDC videos and reviews of different kind of knives, and there's just been an influx on knives that I just find to be really cool. And I still love the old throwback knives. Every once in a while, I'll purchase a knife from that will remind me of some certain point in my life, and then I have some that are coming out, and I just think they're really cool. So I have actually two coming this coming week that I'll do a review on, and I'll mention those here in a minute. But also in this video, besides having a few new knives, um, I've also changed up sort of how I was putting lanyards on my knives. I was all about the paracord for a while, and I still am for some of the knives. Some of them I think the paracord looks really cool, but I've kind of switched to. I'll show it. I think this is the coolest knife I have with it on right now, but you can see here I've started using leather, and I have a ton of just scrap leather laying around from different things, and I'll just cut them into these little strips. And this is obviously the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 with the copper scales that have really patinaed up really nice. But it had the paracord on it with the copper bead. But I saw a couple videos where people were using leather, and to me, that just finishes up that knife really well. If you can see that, it just makes it look so much cooler because the leather over time will, it'll wear in and get softer. But what, from a functionality standpoint, not so much with this knife, but some of my smaller knives, because I got these big mitts, that leather that's a little more substantial than paracord, it really does help with that pinky hold at the end of the knife. But and also I went with, let me close this thing up. That's a snake knot right there. You don't need leather's a little harder to work with knotting up because it's obviously thicker and not as pliable as paracord. But a snake knot's really easy to do, and it kind of leaves a smaller knot as opposed to some other kinds. And like I said, it's very simple to do and effective. So I've been using a snake knot on all of those. So I've already shown this knife in a video before. This is still one of my favorite knives of all time. It's heavy, but I just love the looks of it. Just how patinaed up. I'm on a copper and brass, like whatever you call it, like just loving it. Now I showed this knife. This is a Benchmade. It's an assisted open with the axis lock, and I also threw a leather lanyard on that with the little skull. But I just think it just looks so much nicer than just having paracord, and it'll get softer. Again, this knife is a big knife. These are custom scales made out of micarta. The original scales were just really, it was like a cheap plastic, and there was no grip to it. And I got the knife really cheap on Midway USA. But I like the design of it. I like that Tonto point with the serration right here. And I wasn't sure if I was going to like the axis lock with the assisted open. I mean, for me, in my opinion, assisted opening knives, I just feel like there's extra stuff to break. And this is definitely not a hard use knife. This is something I'd use around the house. And I feel like the assisted open is kind of gimmicky to me personally. I'd rather just have like a flipper or an eye hole like in the Spyderco, whatever. Just I want my knives to be reliable and easy to clean. And when I first got this knife, I went wading in the river for a few hours with my daughter, and it got all gunked up and it wouldn't even open. and I don't like that about my knives. I want to be able to open them no matter what. So this is definitely a knife to be used delicately because of the assisted opening. Haven't had any issues with the axis lock. It's kind of cool. Anytime you can unlock the blade without, you know, putting your fingers down underneath of where the blade's going to fold up. That's kind of cool. Kind of like the Spyderco, you know, having the locking mechanism on top. So that's kind of cool. And I love when you have that jimping and like the blade, it's kind of taller at the top. So when you're holding it, there's no chance of your thumb sliding up and then your index finger stuff rolling over the blade. So again, I'm beating a dead horse here, but this is definitely one of my all-time favorite knives. So, and one of my tried and trues, I went ahead and put a leather lanyard on my Emerson. Again, Spyderco and then my Emerson here are definitely in my top 5 favorite knives. Just love this knife. Just has a little thumb stud for opening it. It has the wave feature. I don't really ever use that, but I can sit and play with this knife for hours, and I've had it so long that it's just broken in, and just love everything about it. Just love the design. I love that big the jimping, and I like how the top of the blade rises up so that, you know, there's no way your hands are going to slide up the blade, and just that recess at the bottom. As you can see, this knife has been well used. So I just like to throw the leather on with the little brass bead, and this needs to break in. It's brand new leather, so it's still kind of stiff. But again, this is another fairly big knife. I don't have any issues with my fingers, pinky hanging off, but I just thought it looked kind of cool. So seen that one before, and you've seen this one before. But when you have the copper scales, this actually I think is brass. I think this is all brass right here, not copper. So, but then I put the brass bead on it with the snake. Actually, it has 2 beads. When I bought this bead, it came with the second one, so I just stuck them on there together. The smaller one is patinaed up quicker than the top one, but again, it has a nice little snake knot on it. But I got this one at Tailor Stitch. Just saw it on their website and had to have it because I'm a sucker for brass and copper. But the only downfall of this knife is the pocket clip. It's at the wrong end for me. I would much prefer it to be here, carry it with tip up in my pocket. But what I do with this knife, and I think I mentioned this in other videos, is I carry this as a boot knife. This is a backup, and I stick it down in my boot. But yeah, I just wish I could have flipped the clip, the pocket clip upside down. It would have been perfect if it had been like this. So, but anyway, I mean, and I wouldn't say perfect. I would have liked to have some jimping on the blade right here, something to, I mean, you have a good recess for the index finger, but there's nothing up here really for your thumb to really dig into. But again, this is a light use knife. It's a good looking knife. So this is just a backup I'd keep in my boot. All right, so I'm gonna move on to 3 new knives. Like I said, I'm a sucker for an EDC video anytime they're showing new knives. So the other day, I think I actually showed these in my Bergara BXR videos. I have a couple of the Civivi knives. So the first one I have is the Odium. I think that's how you say it. And this, to me, kind of got me interested in the cleaver knives, the new cleaver style. I guess it's not new, but it's new to me. And I like just these little fidget knives, little flippers. And I had a chance to buy both of them together. They're considered used, but they're brand new. And I really like this little guy. And I like the fact that it has the recess on the blade so you can really choke up on it. I wish the jimping on the blade went further down, because I got my index finger here, so my thumb would have to be way back here. I'd like for the jimping to go all the way up to about right there, if you can see that. Like, so that just seems like a very awkward position for my hand, because that's where the jimping stops. So I'd like it to go to about right there, because then I can really control this knife. And actually, if I choke up on it, my whole hand is on that knife, and this is a little bitty knife. Now, the biggest drawback for me is it doesn't have a lanyard hole. I like to put lanyards on them because when I'm reaching in my pocket, it's just that little extra that's hanging out that helps me grab it out quickly. And this one doesn't have it. But I like the black blade. The scales on it are kind of slick. So this isn't a heavy use knife, but this is a nice little, box opener. So I've just been playing with it. It's still a little tight. I did lube it up good. But again, I mean, for the money, this is what, like a $30, $40 knife. You can't really go wrong for that price. And I love just being able to choke up on it like that. Like the kind of control you can get with that. But like, again, I wish the jimping went down further on the blade, and I wish I had a lanyard hole. But I like where the clip is. That's nice with the tip up carry. So another Civivi knife is the Elementum. This one has broken in a lot faster than the Odium. This one is very smooth already. And it has the lanyard hole, which again, I put the leather on with a little brass bead. It'll take a while for the leather to break in, but this is where I use a lanyard. This knife right here, my pinky hangs off, but that lanyard gives me something else to hold on to. Just lets my pinky like grab onto something as opposed to just floating in the air. Very simple knife. It does have nice G10 scales on it, so you get some good grip. But just a real simple flipper, with the liner lock. The action on it's really smooth for such a cheap knife. I mean, this is like a $50 knife, and just a really cool, blade style. I know the metal, people always talk about, they critique knives on like the type of steel they're made out of. I have so many freaking knives that they don't have to be, $300-$400 knives. I mean, I literally rotate them out so much, and unless you're, what are you doing with these knives that you're breaking the blades off on them? I mean, I do some cutting and stuff, but again, I'm not too concerned with the real high quality on my blades. Sometimes it's actually, if you have a softer steel, they sharpen up so much quicker. I have some knives that have really high quality steel, and they take forever to sharpen. So I really like these knives. For the price, you can't go wrong. I mean, it's got that fidget factor where you can just sit and pop this knife open. I sit. It's become an unconscious habit, but when I finally sit down for the day and I'm sitting on the couch watching TV, having a drink or whatever, immediately, without even thinking about it, take my knife out of my pocket and I just sit and play with them, back and forth, click, click, click. And I don't even notice. I noticed that I'm doing it for a while anyway. Then finally, I'm like, man, I've been playing with this thing, because after a while, closing it, your thumb starts to get a little sore. So those are the Civivis. And now I got a little throwback. I said I like to sometimes buy knives to remind me of something, of a time in my life. And this next knife is a fixed blade, but I just picked it up on eBay used. It's a vintage knife, but my grandfather had one of these, and I wish I'd been able to get it from him when he passed, but a lot of things that they had just kind of disappeared. So this, I'm going to take it out of the sheath here, is a Puma. This is a Skinner. You see it's the Skinner And if you're not familiar with the Puma knives, they're made in Germany. They got some pretty good steel. I really like the design on this one because of, again, the jimping on the blade. It's got the rise so that my thumb doesn't go over the top of the blade, and then it has this little catch at the bottom to keep my index finger from sliding up the blade. And it's not an overly huge skinner. I mean, you start to get into the Bowie knives and stuff, and they're massive. This is just a perfect size, because obviously you're going to wear this on your side and hanging down. For me, this is just the perfect size skinner right here. And I mean, I'm not using it to skin animals, but you know, you never know when you need a fixed blade. They come in handy, and they make good steel. Just a little side note, they do make a lot of fakes of the Puma knives, because they're fairly pricey knives. This is a vintage one and has the stag handles. They're very well made. So just a little thing you can look for if you ever do buy one of these and want to know that it's right off the bat if it's a fake, is if you look like this, you can't see it, but it has the Puma name on it, and it will tell you like what, by the serial numbers and stuff, it can tell you when it was made. But if you flip it over to the other side and you kind of turn it to see the light, you can't see it on the video, but there's a small little indent where they use a diamond pointed punch, and they check the integrity of the metal on all of them. Now, most people would know that. So, and this one has it, of course. It's one of the first things I check for when I buy them. And this knife, I mean, it was old. It's an old knife, but it had the original edge, which was not much. So I sharpened it up a bit, and I obviously put the leather lanyard on it with the brass stud bead. So yeah, this is the leather case it comes with. Has some corrosion on the studs, but all in all, for as old as this knife is, it's in really good shape, and I didn't pay a ton of money for it. And these will just continue to go up in value. So if you're ever looking for a good fixed blade, like a throwback knife, it's made well, Puma's a great option. You can find them on eBay all day long. But anyway, yeah, those are my knives for the day. And as I was saying, I kind of hinted on this one. This sort of, to me, looks a little bit like the cleaver-esque knives that I've kind of fallen in love with. So I have two cleaver blade folding knives that are coming this coming week, and one of them has the copper scales on one side, and the other one is just G10 scales. But that's all I'm going to say right now until I get them, and I'll do a little review on them. But anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully you got something out of this, and maybe you got some ideas for dressing up your knives and making them a little prettier. Ooh, I gotta lube this guy up. I've been using it so much, and I sweat buckets, and they tighten up on me because they're constantly wet. So I'm constantly having to tear my knives apart and clean them from the inside out, and re-lube all the parts so that they're working well. And this knife gets most of my attention lately. Just love it, everything about it. So anyway, thanks for watching. Later.